After the Civil War, the Republican Party consisted of three different groups of people: black men, the carpetbaggers, Northerners who came south after the war, and the scalawags, Southern whites mostly consisting of yeomen and small farmers. Namely, the South's Republican Party was made up of freedmen, Yankees, and yeomen. There was minimal friction between the party during Reconstruction, but peace didn't last for long.
The Ku Klux Klan, or KKK, took form in 1866 in Tennessee, a social club of Confederate veterans that strongly supported Democrats. The KKK went around whipping, hanging, shooting, burning, and throat-cutting men and women in order to defeat Republicans and restore white supremacy as well as democracy.
In the fall of 1867, Southern states, as ordered by the Reconstruction Acts, began holding elections for delegates to state constitutions. Republicans won three-fourths of the seats and then proposed Reconstruction constitutions with two broad goals. The first was to reduce aristocratic privilege and increase democratic equality, and the second was to expand for states' responsibilities for the people, such as giving the state the responsibility for caring for the orphans, the insane, and the deaf and the mute. They also instituted a public school system in the South, and although the schools lacked funds, the literacy rates rose sharply for both blacks and whites. Segregation occurred in schools and in public transportation.
After the war, whites wanted to uphold slavery as much as they could, so they created the sharecropping system where ex-plantation owners divided their cotton plantations into small farms that freedmen rented, paying with the share of each year's crops, usually half. In this system, there was also the presence of crop line, a merchant who would give goods to a sharecropper in exchange for line or a legal claim on the farmer's future crop. Sharecropping as a whole satisfied no one.
Up north, Grant's presidency wasn't going so well. It turns out that he wasn't as good in the White House that he was on the battlefield. Grant really just wanted justice for blacks and an end to segregation, but he surrounded himself with bad people who could not support him well as an administration. However, despite his troublesome first term as president, Grant was reelected with 56% popular vote.
Around the time of Grant's reelection, Northerners were getting really tired of Reconstruction affairs and wanted to move on from Southern issues, especially since the nation slipped into a devastating economic depression in 1873, which they thought deserved much more attention than Southern problems. But most importantly, Northerners had learned to accept black freedom during the war, but post-war, their prejudice prevented many from accepting black equality. The Supreme Court also backed away from helping black Southerners, and through a series of court cases deciding to place civil rights in the hands of the states, thus eroding the legal foundation of blacks' cause.
Down in the South, a group of Democrats took the name of the Redeemers and promised to replace republicanism in the South with democracy. They fought the Republican cause and therefore the blacks' cause, through racism, blaming small farmers' lack of money on the Republican government, and through terrorism. By 1876, only three Republican state governments survived in the South.
In 1877, the Democrats nominated Samuel J. Tilden, and the Republicans nominated Rutherford B. Hayes for the presidential election. On election day, Tilden was ahead, but they still lacked the electoral votes of the three Southern and Republican states: South Carolina, Louisiana, and Florida. Congress created a special electoral commission to get a solution. All the commissioners voted their party affiliation, so Hayes won instead. Democrats were enraged, so Hayes created the Compromise of 1877, in which he vowed to refrain from using the Army to uphold the remaining Republicans in the South and to provide the South with substantial federal subsidies for railroads. However, the last three Republican state governments fell quickly after Hayes abandoned them and withdrew the U.S. Army. Reconstruction had officially come to an end.